This is Eric Rutan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew McKay Smith.
G'day everybody. I have a chat with John Campbell, who is the bassist in Lamb of God, to share with you. The catalyst for the conversation is the launch of a new album by the lads. It is titled Omens. It'll see light of day on October 7th, 2022. In this conversation, of course, we cover Omens. We talk about the onboarding of Art Cruz, the drummer who's replaced Willie Adler. This is his second album now. And dive into some stuff from deep in the past as well. The relationship between the band and Steve Austin from Today Is Today. Why the group did Legion XX or Legion 20, whatever that cover album was called under the old Burton the Priest moniker from 2018. And anybody who's listened to this show for more than a couple of episodes will know I tend to ask questions that other people won't or don't or can't or whatever it might be. So I go there and ask him about Willie Adler, who has been absent from live performances. So I ask him about what's been going on there. And as you'll hear, nobody else has been talking about it. So I think I took him a bit aback on that one there, and there's a few other moments where I think I caught him by surprise. But as I say, if you listen to my show, you know that I tend to do that. If you're listening via the podcast apps, I have a tune to share with you from the album Omens. This one is titled Grayscale. We'll hit that in a moment. But if you've tuned in via YouTube, you know I can't play music on it because the bloody thing will get removed. So let's cut to the conversation right now for you YouTubers and for everybody else in the podcast apps. Here's Grayscale. Let's do it. Fucking hear you, mate.
What's up, Andy? Right on. How you feeling?
Oh, I'm all right, brother. Man, you're right on time. I'm impressed.
I just finished another interview, so I was sitting here like, fuck it. Might as well hit this link.
Sometimes I'm here for 5, 10, 15 minutes, and it's always good to talk to people.
This is always also my last one, so I'm free after this. So awesome. You're Australia, not Austria. I said AUS, and I was thinking this was Europe. I was like, oh. And then you started talking. That's not an Austrian accent.
Yeah, I'm pretty lucky actually. John Houth. I don't know whether you know John, the nuclear blast territory manager for Australia and New Zealand.
I'm positive I've met him before.
Yeah, lovely fella, and he's got my back on these sorts of things. So he sees when the European call schedules come through, and he says, "Hey, I know you like doing the morning ones because I've got kids. So many of us have kids."
Oh yeah.
If I do it
so
at night,
you're being a company guy now. You're just being the company guy to make it all happen. No, I dig it, man. If you do it at night, you got to be like, oh shit, I'll wake up. Yeah,
so but it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. The kids start yelling and all the rest of it. At the moment, mate, they're just slumbering.
It's the other way around.
Yeah, because it's 6 a.m.
How old are the kids? How old are they?
God, I've got to think about that. 6 and 8.
Congratulations. I'm at 11 and 14 on mine.
Oh, well, virtually the same age.
It gets easier on one hand and gets more difficult on another.
You got girls or boys or a blend?
I have a blend. My daughter is 11. My son is 14.
Oh, how do you go with because I've got 2 daughters. How do you go with the daughter when you're away from the road and you come back and you know what I mean? That sort of thing. Does
no, but it's fine. I talk to them on FaceTime and stay in touch and, have a great relationship with my kids and it's amazing.
Yeah.
I just found things to leave.
Yeah, I just found when I was away and when I came back, it can be a bit disruptive. And it's one of the reasons I quit working away from home, actually.
Unfortunately, my children have had to deal with the disruptive lifestyle of their father for quite some time. So I think it's normal for them, to be honest.
Oh, I can imagine. You've been at it now for bloody decades now, haven't you? The traveling on the road.
For let me think. Not twice my son's age, but at least twice my daughter's age.
Yeah. What was there any adjustment period for you, or was it just one of those things where you were just so young that it just felt normal to be on the road?
Oh my God, it's what we wanted to be doing. Like we had shitty jobs at home that we could just leave or get our shifts covered and then come home and get right back to work. But it was everything to be able to get in the van and go spend 2 weeks playing people's basements and shitty bars and camping out some nights because we don't have money for a hotel, but it was our vacation. And then it turned into our jobs. And, we were very fortunate to have that job. And we were still young enough and I guess drunk enough at that point that it was great. And I still love it. I still love traveling. I still love playing shows. But it gets harder and harder, as families growing up at home and you want to be there for them. And, it's not as glamorous as you might think living on a tour bus. We're basically living in our car that was designed for people to live out of, but still living out of a car with a bunch of 40 to 50-year-old dudes stinking and farting.
You're a professional traveller these days. I was talking to Levi Benton from Miss Mayo about it, and you're not real. I mean, of course, you're a musician, but that's the secondary thing to the fact that, to your point, you're in airports and you're on buses breathing in each other's.
I can get through security like that, man. I got all my shit ready to get up to the security line. Boom, shoes off. I'm definitely a professional. Stand in a little machine like this.
Yeah. What's the worst country to visit from the security perspective, where they just look at you guys and go, musicians, we're going to give you a hard time?
Oh man, I don't know if I should say. I don't want to. Canada. When you travel from the U.S. to Canada, or from Canada to the U.S. in a vehicle as opposed to through the air, they tend to be pretty harsh. But I understand that's their job. Like their jobs are to be assholes, to ferret out people who are going to get nervous when they're dealing. Like they're big guard dogs that you walk up to the gate and if you're like nervous, then that makes them go, "Oh, why are you nervous?"
Yeah.
So it's, at this point, we've been doing this long enough. Like there's nothing on the buses when we cross. Like nobody's carrying anything. All their paperwork's in order, but yet you walk in and they're looking at you like criminals.
Yeah. The only place I've ever had any issues was Los Angeles, funnily enough, when I flew from Brisbane to there. And me and randomly, because obviously I'm a muso. This isn't for show, by the way. I've got a gig later on. But me and another very well-known musician in Australia, Ben Eli from Regurgitator, I didn't know he was on the flight, but he was on the flight. And we both got singled out for a full-on drug test. And I thought, Jesus Christ, here we go. And
drug test?
Yeah. They pulled us aside and so they just take off our tops and shoes and the whole thing, and this was not long after 9/11, and I thought, wow,
that's mind-blowing.
It was pretty shit, to be honest. Like I thought, well, the first thing that goes through your mind is, because I don't take drugs or anything, but I'm thinking, do they have advance notice that someone's put something on me, or I've got stuff and someone's put it on me or something? And because these are the things that go through your mind, and they're probably rational thoughts.
Sure.
And no, of course, we neither of us had anything off us, and all of a sudden we just sort of looked at each other and went, shit, we need to. It was too early. It was like 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. to get a beer, so let's go get a fucking coffee. And we ended up buying me one, and I thought, wow, that's a pretty cool story that I got for later on. So
that's a great story. That's a great story. It's crazy. Why they do those things, who knows?
Yeah.
And to be honest, my passport is way too valuable to me to be doing anything stupid. I occasionally will smoke a left-handed cigarette, but if it's not there or whatever, and they've got it at pretty much everywhere, they're not relying on me to bring it in.
Oh, your tour managers, that must be just the number one priority, I suppose, is to make sure that you got a clean passport.
Well, as far as like carrying drugs across the border, or just having a clean passport in general?
Oh, just in general, because you guys aren't. Let's face it, you're basically the biggest heavy metal band in the world at the moment, outside of the big four. So you guys are basically an industry, and if one of you guys can't do it, sure, they can replace you, but they can't replace you in the typical sense these days. That's the thing, because you're all individual personalities, and there's going to be a John Campbell fan in the audience that has got the shits and wants to mail a proposal. Yeah. John wasn't on stage. I don't want to listen to whoever the other bloke is.
Right. I guess that's good and bad though. But we've had during COVID, we had Phil Demmel on the sidelines, ready to fill in should anyone get sick. So he took time to learn all the stringed instruments, and that's just like a business move that we don't want to cancel shows. And I think that the kids are very happy to see Phil Demmel occasionally.
Yeah, he's not a bad guy to have on the side.
No, he's besides being a phenomenal player, he's an outstanding person. Also, he's a great dude. Yeah. The stories are true.
Yeah, I've heard some of them. I had an opportunity to chat to him a couple of years ago, and just the stars didn't quite align. Sometimes these things happen, but it's great to be talking to you finally. I was in the audience in the Metallica show you guys did in Brisbane in 2010.
In 2010?
Yeah.
God damn. That's the last time you saw us?
Yeah, that was it. I think you've been here since, but that was the last time I saw you.
We have,
guys.
but it's been a while. It's been a while.
And to be honest, Metallica was shit that night, and God help me. But but you guys were so good, and Baroness was fantastic as well. And
they are.
It's that old thing where how do you follow Slayer sort of thing? Well, how do you follow you guys? And Metallica had to do that. And look, they're almost a vaudeville act at this point in time as they were back then, because they're a covers band playing the majority of their set from their 4 albums or whatever it might be. But you guys have just kept on trucking on since then. And look, this recent album, it's I don't have to tell you it's a killer album. You guys have worked your asses off on it, obviously, and it's his second album.
Thank you.
Saw him when he played with Prong down here many years ago, and he did a great job then. So it was great to see that, if anybody could follow Chris, it was him, and he is. Mm. But this album here, this new one, it's your 9th album as Lamb of God, and I think for you personally, it might be your 12th, if I'm not mistaken. The other 3 Burn the Priest albums or whatever it might be.
No idea. I have no idea, but yeah, somewhere in there. I know Sturm und Drang was 7, so this is our 9th studio album as Lamb of God. Yeah. And then there's 2 Burn the Priest original, Burn the Priest cover, and then there's live records, and a couple singles besides that. Yeah.
Mm. But do you think this album? I mean, your legacy is established, okay? But do you feel like as though this album is one of those ones that really significantly contributes to the legacy of the band?
I certainly hope so. I guess ultimately it's for the fans to decide. And I mean, there's some people that don't think we put out a sacrament or even Ashes of the Wake. I love what we're doing now, and I'm always happiest and proudest of our latest record, and that isn't any different now. I think there are some phenomenal songs on this that we've been playing some live and have gone over well. Only time will tell if it becomes part of if there are some emblematic songs on here that become part of the overall legacy. I would like to think so, but time will tell.
Yeah. But do you feel as though, I guess just taking that question a bit further, do you feel as though Omens will help you consolidate your audience, or do you feel as though is the vibe amongst management and the band is that it could potentially bring in brand new fans, so people who are yet to hear you guys?
I'm sure someone has thought about it in those terms. For me, I look at it as we're just we're this band. We make music and we push ourselves really hard to outdo what we had done and do the best that we can in every aspect. And I feel like we've continued to do that and step it up every record. This record may or may not bring us in more fans, may piss off a bunch of old fans, may piss off a bunch of new fans. Who knows? But it's always a really organic thing. It's not a strategic, well, let's put out this type of record and this song will go to radio because that will get us radio fans. And then we'll go tour with this band in order to scoop fans from them. It's less contrived than that. It's more organic and just trying to be the biggest, best thing that we can be.
Yeah. It's an interesting question, that one there, because sometimes I've thought about this a lot, and you're a great guy to talk to about it, given the size of the band. But do you think that we've hit peak heavy metal popularity? In other words, is there any more room on the boat, or do you think there's room for growth realistically? And where you guys are at, as I say, you're the biggest band outside of the big four. Is there actually genuine room for growth?
That is a great question. I think so. I think definitely there is. I think the art form has got lots to do still, and I feel like we as a band kind of blend a lot of different types of heavy metal, and are an example of what the possibilities of heavy metal can be. We play on talk shows, like we're pushing the envelope is getting bigger and bigger. I got to sit at John Campbell's desk down in New Zealand one time. I mean, how much bigger can I get than that?
Wow. Yeah.
No, I think there's room for growth. I don't think that it's topped out. I think that it's a viable genre that will continue to grow, develop, and be popular among its fans. And yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Hey, just with the new album again, which song on the albums are yours, or which ones did you co-write?
I would say the closest I came to co-writing anything would be September Song, but it's just locking in with Art on the intro there. Are you familiar with that last song? The closer on the record.
I've had the album for a couple of weeks, and I tend to listen to it without noticing the song titles, to be honest with you. But the whole thing seems like just another killer installment, as I say, in the legacy of the band. But one thing I noticed is there's just not a dud riff. All of the riffs are rolled gold.
Wow, shit. Well, thank you. The chorus of September Song comes the closest to where you can say I was co-writing, but the truth is that Mark and Willie are the primary songwriters, and that they come in with riffs in different stages of put together with choruses and verses and this, that, and the other. And then Josh and those two guys will get together and put stuff together. And then the band comes together to start working on stuff. And that's where it's open to like suggestions on, or is that really the chorus that we need there? Or does that chorus work so good there? And what about that one song that we're not using? Could we steal that part from that one song and bring it into this? That's where the co-writing happens. But it's primarily the riffs of Mark and Willie.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah. Look, and as the bassist, look, you must have felt the change from Chris to Art more keenly than anybody else. So, as far as you're concerned, what are the key differences in their styles?
Art has more of an organic, natural swing, a feel to him. His hands are incredibly fast and accurate, and he's just full of positive, great energy. And he's always happy to be there, smiling, excited. This guy came up listening to us and listening to Chris play drums. He also happens to be a lefty playing on a right-handed kit like Chris was. He kind of like looked up to him as to learn how to play drums, and he did that. And so it like only makes sense that he was the perfect fill-in. He was almost his understudy without knowing it. And he kind of took that and ran with it. I think you can hear it on this record that he's starting to feel maybe a little more comfortable to put some of himself into it. He's not how to say this, the technically created, edited ideas put together, as he's just more of the natural feel, groove, smooth, great player, powerful player. He's an incredibly powerful player.
Was there a concern that, we've talked about it up top insofar as the amount of traveling you guys do, but you probably knew Chris back to front. And was there a concern that maybe Art, great drummer, and yes, he'd been on the road many times with Prong and other bands, but...
And with us, actually.
Oh, is that right?
We met him years ago. We met him years ago at an Ozfest or a Mayhem when he was in Winds of Plague. I just connected with him because he was a great dude. And stayed in touch after that tour. And I think we came through LA on a tour one time. We're like, dude, why don't you fucking ride the bus with us? You don't have a job. You ain't doing shit. So he came. He was like, yeah, I'll come out for a couple of days. And he ended up staying and hanging out for like 2 weeks. It was phenomenal. Like we've known Art and gotten to know Art really well over the years. So it was, we already knew that personality wise, he was a fit.
Was he the only one that you guys considered to replace Chris? Yeah.
Yes, he was.
Yeah. Okay. Killer. Yeah. I mean, realistically, there's him or Dirk, and Dirk's in Megadeth these days. So what do? You have to have someone. You have to have someone at that level, don't you, to join a band like you guys?
You do.
Yeah. I hope I could ask this question. Gosh, I asked Nicholas from In Flames if he was still on the band. He said no comment. But is Willie still in the group with you guys?
Absolutely. Yeah. Willie has always been in the group. We have all had situations happen where we had to not be on tour when the band had stuff going on because of stuff happening that we needed to take care of. Yeah. Willie is 1,000% of the band.
Cool.
We are lucky to have Phil Demmel available to step in when needed. But yeah, that's the first time I've been asked that, so I'm a little taken aback. But yeah, Willie is absolutely in the band. We had sound check earlier. We were on stage right together, playing tunes.
Yeah. No, I tend to ask these sorts of questions, and of course, Blabbermouth probably picks up on it. Maybe they won't, but who bloody knows? They tend to pick up on
they love to. They love to, don't they? Yes, they do. I mean, they like clicks.
Yeah. A bit of a left turn now. Steve Austin from Today is the Day is a genius as far as I'm concerned. And he's from that old school Jesus Lizard thing, that whole AMREP scene. And he produced the debut Burn the Priest album. What did you learn from him?
What did we learn from Steve? Man, I don't know. I think we might have been too drunk and too big of idiots to learn anything from Steve at that point. We just, what did we learn from Steve? Ted, I don't know. I bet you the other dudes could come up with something much better because Steve is a great dude. I mean, he's just got his way of doing things, and we went in there and brought the two together, and he pushed along the project and made it happen. And I'm glad we had the opportunity to work with him.
Yeah.
That's also where we ended up meeting. We ended up meeting Bill and Braun from Mastodon because they were in Today's the Day. Actually, Bill came down to try out for Today's the Day. We were in the studio. We had to stop so they could have a rehearsal and see if he was going to work out. And that's when we met those dudes. Whenever, I don't even know when that was, 90-something.
Yeah. Look, you've probably told this story 1,000 times, but I just haven't read it. But the decision to move from the band name Burn the Priest to Lamb of God, was that a record company thing, or was that just you guys?
No, that was. Well, we were Burn the Priest, and there was someone in the band who was like, "Man, that name is so stupid. What a stupid name. We need a better name." And then they come in the next week to practice and it's like, "Man, I don't know what I'm talking about. That's the greatest heavy metal band name ever." And they just kept flip-flopping. And then we were going to sign with Prosthetic. And we had a band meeting where this person's like, "Hey, if we're going to sign this, I think this is the time that we got to change the name before we get any bigger on this Burn the Priest name." Because people think we're satanic and just kind of write us off as a jokey band, which we weren't. So we all finally agreed. Okay, let's change the name. What's it going to be? And took a while. He came back with Lamb of God, and the rest is that. The rest is history.
It must have been a numerology thing. If you believe in that, I don't personally believe in it, by the way, but you got a band name and because you're still basically exactly the same band as far as I could hear. And then because I bought the debut, I was one of those few people in Australia that bought the debut when it came out because I used to read Metal Maniacs and they raved about you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember buying it and thinking, Jesus, this is like the meeting point between sort of the early Cannibal Corpse, Chris Barnes stuff and Metallica or Megadeth or what have you. That's what it reminded me of. And the name change, mate, there must have been something in the stars there. It just needed to happen in order for you guys to blow up.
Well, funny enough, we were really concerned that we pressed 1,500 Burn the Priest CDs, or our friend had under I think it was called Goat Boy Records at that point. And we're really concerned about like all the fans we had made. If we change the name, how are they going to know that it's us? So I think when Lamb of God came out, it might have had a sticker on it saying "formerly known as" or some shit like that.
Yeah,
which is silly to think. We didn't really make that much of an impact. People who say that they were at Burn the Priest shows are probably full of shit because they were not that.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like all the people that were at the Nirvana show here at Fisherman's Wharf on the Gold Coast back in the day.
Yeah, right.
Like 400,000 people say that they were there, but
to like a 3,500 cap room, right?
Yeah, exactly. Not even probably, but yeah, it's like that. Yeah. It's like I'm being 44, of course. I was around back then, and I'll be totally honest, I thought Nirvana sucked, but never mind.
You son of a bitch. Well, here's something for all the readers, for all the listeners, wherever this gets put out there. When some shit like that's going down, look around. You can see who's standing around you experiencing it. And if anybody says they were there that weren't those people, then well, shit.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Hey, I just want to shoehorn this question in quickly about the Jesus Lizard. I've always thought your bass playing reminded me a lot of David William Sims from the Jesus Lizard. So was he an inspiration at all?
I wouldn't say a direct inspiration in that I was like, I've got to learn that, but absolutely. I did an interview just before this where they were like, well, what are you like growing up main influences? Like, well, dude from Guar, but like Jesus Lizard, holy shit. And Faith No More. Yeah. The bass players in those, like, just phenomenal. But it's the Jesus Lizard hugely. I absolutely love that band and that bass player, and that's incredible. I got to see them. It's been about was it pre-pandemic? Yeah, it was pre-pandemic. I got to see them play live again on their, I guess, Old Guys Getting Back Together tour, and still phenomenal.
Yeah, he and Dwayne Dennison, magnificent combo, and Shot. That album, Shot, was shit. I still listen to Shot.
I listen to that. Is Goat one of their records too?
Yeah, it is.
I listen. I listen. Yes, I go back to Jesus Wizard quite a bit. I'll wake up with those bass lines in my head and be like, all right, God damn it, where's my bass? I got to learn how to play this.
Are you an Angel Dust guy or the Real Thing guy?
What in the fuck are you asking me? Angel Dust?
Faith No More. Billy Gould.
Oh, Billy Gould. I don't know what the difference between Angel Dust and a OG or whatever, but I just from I don't fall back so hard on their shit. What's the name of the record that had Epic on it? The one after that.
Angel
The Real
Dust
Thing is a good record. And what's the King for a Day, Fool for a Lifetime?
Spot on.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's got Trey from Mr. Bowden playing guitars on it. Yeah,
I love that record. And then also Soul Invictus. That's an amazing record.
That's interesting. I can't vibe on that one. Yeah, I couldn't vibe on that one or the other one, the Album of the Year album. Yeah. My problem, I suppose, but
I mean, rainbows will bend from me, curvy. What a great lyric.
Yeah, well, that's Mike Patton. Yeah, he's a genius. So he's I love because look, it's interesting. I'm probably like we all are as bassists, right? We love Flea, right? But I can't stand the Chili Peppers.
I mean, listen, I got to come clean with you. I've seen them play live back in '89 on the Mother's Milk tour.
Nice, yeah.
And I thought it was a great show. And Mother's Milk I got into, and then I went backwards, listened to all their older, raw, more punk rock stuff, and kind of dug that shit quite a bit for a while. But as they developed, they just kind of they lost it for me. Oh, but they gained it for a lot more people. Yeah, but listen, I mean, did they give a fuck? No. They went on and did their thing, and they succeeded beyond their wildest dreams, I'm sure.
Yeah.
They weren't going to get there playing freaky style. That wasn't going to get them to where they are.
No, they're kind of. I love those albums too. When I say love them, that's my pick of the material as well. If I'm going to listen to those guys, but they were never going to get there playing that weird George Clinton, Bootsy Collins, funky white boy shit. It was never gonna.
No, but they're so steeped in it. You got to give them a little nod for like, okay, y'all came from this. There's still that flavor in there.
Yeah. And the point I was going to make about Mike Patton and Faith No More, I loved how they took the piss out of the Chili Peppers early on when they started getting compared to them. And that whole thing that he was doing, Mike Patton was doing, was such a big piss take of Anthony Kiedis at the time. And I love the way he just didn't shy away from it and he dived into it.
No. I mean, when you're as talented as Mike Patton and somebody is in there doing the same job you are, I think Mike Patton has every right to clown any other front man that he wants, because he holds his own.
Indeed, yeah. Hey, look, I'm going to cross the grid again if I've got time for a couple more questions. Is that cool, or have you got to head off?
You've got a couple more questions. Hold on. I was just checking that text. Let's get a couple more questions in.
Sweet. Okay. As I say, I'm just going to cross back over the grid. I still listen to and I adore the album Legion. Is it 20 or Legion XX that you guys did under the Burn the Priest moniker? It was actually I think it was the second or third album on my list of albums from 2018. Extraordinary album. You guys,
thank you.
It's just bolt tight. Is the point around that. As a musician, I listened to that, and I don't think, I've got to be honest, I don't think you guys have ever sounded better than you did on that album there. Which I thought was which I thought was interesting because of your huge catalog. But why did you feel as though that album was necessary?
Well, we had been talking about doing something like that for fucking ever because it would be so much fun, and that actually started out as we wanted to do covers of a bunch of Richmond bands that influenced us at the time, and then the record company wisely pointed out that a fucking cover record of a bunch of garage bands that nobody's heard of. So there is one that's thrown in. I don't know. I thought somebody was flicking off the. We're in a baseball field and there's people taking pictures. I thought somebody was flicking off the park. Sorry. Something shiny. I get distracted. I think that we wanted to do that. The record company said, "Well, I think we would rather." Here are some songs I know. So we kind of picked the songs that influenced us, but we did throw we did throw a Richmond band in there. That was like one of our big influences, and no one's heard of, and they're just an amazing band.
Yeah, cool.
Which from Richmond, there were a bunch of great bands: Sling Louse, Breadwinner, Keepone. A bunch of amazing bands came out of Richmond.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, is Richmond a beach city? Is it near a beach? Am I wrong in saying that, or is nowhere near it? Okay, gotcha.
No, we're an hour and a half in from the coast and an hour and a half from the mountains. We're kind of right snuggled in the middle. We have a river running through us.
Gotcha. Yeah. Hey, look, you've been in, second last question for you. Look, you've been in the band longer than anybody else. So what aspect, if any, has been the most surprising in regards to not success, because anybody can have that, but it's the enduring success of the group?
To be honest with you, like I feel like now we're in some way kind of leveling up in some ways that it's feeling kind of weird, almost to the point of like when people first started asking for autographs, I was like, you want me to scribble on your shit? You want me to ruin your record cover by scribbling? Oh, okay. But now like these younger bands and even some of the production crews, like they when we walk in, they're just like we're the same assholes that have been doing this for so long. There's nothing that's changed. It's what this you were asking for enduring success, or a sign or a symptom of that. I don't know how it happened. I think that we've wanted to do this. We love doing this, and we have had some success at it. So we've been lucky enough to continue doing it. And in doing so, it kind of builds on itself. We get better at doing it because we're able to put more time and energy into it. That's if there's any secret to the enduring success is get in a band with Mark, Willie, Randy, and Art.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, which is only going to happen once. Let's face it, never happen again. But
that's true.
Yeah, last one, mate. I've got to ask. I'm a writer. I've written a book. I've written a couple actually, but mate, when's your book coming out? Please tell me you've got one in the works.
Me, a new book?
Yeah, where's your autobiography? You got to write your story. It's got to happen.
Man, I got to have more of a. I think I got to get ready to be looking back, and we're still looking forward. I'm not ready to look back, to rest on my laurels and tell the stories yet. There's more stories to live.
Great answer. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I tend to agree with you. Yeah, healthy middle age.
I would love to someday. I would love to at some point. And Mark Eglinton is an author that I've been in touch with a few times. Great guy.
Awesome. Yeah. I've had a few conversations with him over email. He's a lovely fella, Mark. Yeah,
he really is. And if anyone were to help me write a book, as far as I understand, it would be that guy at this point. But again, give me some more. Let me get some more stories to tell.
Indeed, yeah.
Or stories that I can tell. All right, my man, I've got to boogie. I appreciate you getting up early and taking care of this. Make us both sound cool as shit in this.
Thank you, brother. It's been awesome to finally chat to you. Look forward to it.
Yeah, man.
Thanks, mate.
See you down there in Australia. Peace.
Well, there you go. The great John Campbell, bassist from Lamb of God. What a terrific fella. It's interesting there too. I think I was certainly the first Australian conversation that he's had or interview or whatever for the promo trail for Omens, and I wonder when the next ones will come up, because I think Lamb of God's popularity in the United States has even squeezed out some of the European interviewers as well. So I was tagged onto the European press junket there. Really appreciate, big shout out to John Howarth, who I mentioned up top there in the chat with John, who's the Australian New Zealand nuclear blast territory manager. What a terrific fella, good mate. Okay, so that's it. If you like listening to that chat, you might enjoy listening to even more, so go across to scarsandguitars.com, peruse through the list, and you'll see many other conversations from the leading lights in rock, heavy metal, hard rock, black metal, all of it. So much stuff. And if you like listening, perhaps you like reading too. And I've written a book about my podcast, Scars and Guitars, Volume 1, Conversations from the World of Heavy Metal and Beyond. Click the link in the banner. You'll be taken to a marketplace of your choosing. You can download a sample, and if you do complete the purchase, hit me up. I've got some more information to share with you about the book in the moment, but before I let you go, I'm going to sign off. My name's Andrew Mackay Smith, and I'm the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast series. Until next time, it is a very goodbye But now,
This is Eric Rattan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew McKay Smith.
I've been the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast since 2017. The first musician I interviewed for the show was David Vincent from Morbid Angel, and things have just snowballed from there. In all, I've posted almost 650 podcast episodes featuring conversations with many of the leading lights of rock, heavy metal, and beyond. It just got to a point where I thought, I need to write a book about all this, so that's exactly what I did. In Scars and Guitars Volume 1, you'll read a heap of deep reveals and commentary, such as Des Fafara talking about Coal Chamber and why the band will never return.
You know, if you're a band just starting out, you need to hear me. Do not start a band with partners. Ever.
Yeah, wise words there. Sage advice, mate, for anybody.
Don't ever, because I can't go do Coal Chamber right now unless I get others involved.
Phil Anselmo talks about the episode in his career which gives him the greatest sense of accomplishment.
I think the staying power of the fans and the staying power of the songs, you know, whether it's Pantera, Down, or Superjoint, the fans remember the songs.
Alex Skolnick from Testament confirms that, yes, playing the guitar in Ozzy's band is anything but an ordinary gig. Will Silent Oz from Dimmu Borgir write a book? Pa from Sabaton gives advice to people who want to start a band.
Look at the team around you, look at the bandmates. If the guys want to be on the stage, then it's all cool. If the guys want to be backstage, then it's not going to be cool.
Current and former members of Cradle of Filth discuss the band's seminal 90s material. Read about the reaction to George Lynch and Mark from Suicide Silence's comments when they throw shade at then President Donald Trump.
We have this idiotic monster, you know, this egotistical, self-aggrandizing, complete piece of shit in there. I just can't understand how we've gotten to this place.
And yeah, we kicked a hornet's nest with Sepultura. Percussive overlord Gene Hoglan talks about recording with Chuck Schuldiner.
Chuck was always, he was very open-minded, and he was into having his musicians that were playing with him just reach out for the best stuff that they had.
Phil Campbell from Motorhead discusses what it takes to get sober. John Five answers his critics who dismiss his tenure with Marilyn Manson.
You know, my name is John Five, and Manson gave me that name, and I had some of the best years of my life in that band and learned a lot.
And we get the lowdown on Treyarch Zagtoth from those who would know, including his mother. All across Scars and Guitars Volume 1, there are moments of tension, relief, tragedy, exhilaration, and throughout it all, you'll obtain insight that I believe no one else has managed to obtain from many of your favourite artists. So treat yourself. Scars and Guitars Volume 1 is currently available as an ebook with a print edition on the horizon. Follow the links attached and download a sample. I'm sure you'll be compelled to read the whole book.